Testing 1, 2, 3. Hi, everybody. Let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. Happy Monday. Happy New Year's. This is, I would say, the official first full week of 2026, and we are entering it with a bang, honey. Because trust me, the Trump administration going into Venezuela was planned to do it during this time, the first weekend of the New Year's. That was planned. That was very much intentional. So, and it was a success. It was a success. So, yes, we have to talk about um Nicolas Maduro, captured by United States military. He is in custody. He had his first court appearance today. We're going to talk about it. He pleaded not guilty, right? And yeah, I see the judge. Judge, I'm just waiting for you to get situated because I don't want people being nosy while you're getting situated. Because people try to look all up in your house. So, guys, please like this video, share this live stream, like the live stream, share the live stream, get in the chat and comment, share, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. If you would like to send in a super chat to ask a question or comment, please do so. We are back Monday afternoons. This is like a new time. I kind of like Mondays because it gives me time in the evenings to do more work. And yeah. And I hope you guys had a wonderful holidays. Now it's back to work. Couple of new announcements will be coming next show next week, Monday. I will be doing my show, Dinner with the Data, this Wednesday. Back to that. And of course, we have to talk about the protest that's going on in Iran. And, honey, breaking news, Tim Walz would not be seeking re-election for governor of Minnesota. I wonder why. We got to talk about that too. But I do want to start off talking about JD Vance, honey. Yeah, it's some crazy liberal lover tried to break into his Cincinnati home. Now, I believe JD Vance and his family, they live in DC in the observatory. That's where the VP supposed to live at. But he still has Secret Service in his house in Cincinnati. So I think his house was vandalized. Okay, here go the judge. Hi.
All right.
How are you? I like the hat. Cool. What is that? Is that Stetson?
No, it's not. It's a custom hat.
Oh,
I had it made up.
cool. Okay. So before we get into, of course, the capture of Mandora, I wanted to bring up JD Vance because that was a little bit of
Listen, it's called connecting.
breaking news today. I thought did I put it somewhere else? Oh no, I did not. I thought I saved it. Okay. Let's see. What is this? I thought I saved it. I was just watching it earlier. Okay. So I wanted to talk about real quick JD Vance because his house was broken into in his Cincinnati home.
Now on Fox 19, the United States Secret Service confirms a man is in custody accused of vandalizing the home of Vice President J.D. Vance.
Taylor Davis is live outside of Vance's home in East Walnut Hills. Now that the sun has risen, have you seen anything else out there, Taylor?
Well, right now we are able to see a little of the damage. We learned from U.S. Secret Service that this man right here, William DeFore, is accused of vandalizing Vice President J.D. Vance's home. William DeFore, we're working to get more information on the charges, but they did send us a statement that I am reading in part. In the statement, which will read, the Secret Service says the incident happened just after midnight. The agency says the man was physically detained by Secret Service agents. The home was unoccupied at the time, and the vice president and his family were not in Ohio. I'm going to step out of the way because since we've been here, we've been seeing a Secret Service vehicle parked at the end of the driveway. And since the sun has come up, we've been seeing agents walking around the home as well. They tell us that there are several broken windows at the home. We're going to continue to follow up on this story, but we also know from the Secret Service is that they are coordinating with Cincinnati Police and the U.S. Attorney's Office as charging decisions are being reviewed. In East Walnut Hills with photojournalist David Palmer.
Yeah, so, you know,
One of the charging options is a misdemeanor, minor one. I used to have these kind of cases on my TV show when I did binding contractual arbitration as per the U.S. Arbitration Act of 1928. And I had a lot of them on my bench on the state bench when it was an appeal from a misdemeanor conviction, although considering the other circumstances here, there are some potential felony charges that could be brought. And, you know, it's always a punk thing when you do this. You don't want to confront the person directly, so you take your eye out on the person's property. In some states, it's defined as the intentional destruction or damage to the personal or real property of another with intent to do harm to the perceived owner. So, in other words, he may have been renting it, or he may not even have lived there. But if the clown that is responsible for the perpetration thought he did, or he had some interest, then that becomes malicious mischief. It's also known as vandalism, the intentional destruction of personal property or the real property or the damage of the real property of another, et cetera, et cetera. It's crazy, and usually what you get it is somebody's lover is upset with them, or somebody is along those kind of lines. So you can look at the defendant, and he's innocent until he's proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But you know, he looks like the type that would be involved in this kind of thing, even if he's not.
right. So it says here that William DeFore, 26, has been charged with attempting to break into VP Vance's home. So I guess attempted burglary.
Attempted burglary, that becomes a felony.
And then JD Vance, he said, I appreciate everyone's well wishes about the attack at our home. As far as I can tell, a crazy person tried to break in by hammering the windows. I'm grateful to the Secret Service and the Cincinnati Police for responding quickly. We weren't even home as we had returned already to DC. One request to the media: we try to protect our kids as much as possible from the realities of this life of public service. In that light, I am skeptical of the news value of plastering images of our home with holes in the windows.
Actually, I tried to raise all of my kids and any kid I've had anything to do with, which is a lot, to have some awareness of politics, because there's nothing in the world today that is not touched by politics of some form. And anytime you get three humans, chimpanzees, baboons dealing with each other, three wolves dealing with each other, there's a matter of politics. In other words, which one's going to be in charge of the other two, or if everybody's equal, which majority, 2 versus 1, is going to win
Right.
out on when there's a decision to make. So politics is inescapable.
Right. Well, aside from that, I wanted to read what he had to say about Venezuela, because he says, you see a lot of claims that Venezuela has nothing to do with drugs because most of the fentanyl comes from elsewhere. I want to address this. First off, fentanyl isn't the only drug in the world, and there is still fentanyl coming from Venezuela. At least there was. Second, cocaine was in the main drug traffic. Cocaine, which is the main drug trafficked out of Venezuela, is a profit center for all of the Latin American cartels. If you cut out the money from cocaine or even reduce it, you substantially weaken the cartels overall. Also, cocaine is bad too. Third, yes, a lot of fentanyl is coming out of Mexico. That continues to be a focus of our policy in Mexico and is the reason why President Trump shut the border on day one. Fourth, I see a lot of criticism about oil. About 20 years ago, Venezuela expropriated American oil property and until recently used that stolen property to get rich and fund their narco terrorist activities. I understand the anxiety over the use of military force, but are we just supposed to allow the communists to steal our stuff in our hemisphere and do nothing? Great powers don't act like that. The United States, thanks to President Trump leadership, is a great power again. Everyone should take note.
The precedents, by the way, Manuel Noriega in Panama about 20-some years ago, he was indicted for drug trafficking, convicted, and got 40 years in an American federal penitentiary after a SOCOM raid, Special Operations Command raid down in Panama that was well executed. There's bin Laden, SEAL Team 6 went after him, and they were also involved in this. And you have other precedents that go back a long way. The U.S. and Venezuela have had some ups and downs that go back into the last quarter of the 19th century. At that point, the Venezuelan Navy was actually bigger than ours, and they had battleships, which we lacked. And there was this little thing about a potential revolution, so some Americans were supporting the opponents of the vested power structure there, and they seized some American ships. And in one instance, they put the captain of an American vessel on the wall and executed him by firing squad. So it prompted the U.S. getting a new Navy, which started off with ship number 2, the Maine. Remember the Maine? Blowing up because of bad coal and bad design features that allowed the coal to self combust and set off the powder magazine. They called it an effort by the Cubans or the Spanish to sabotage the ship, and it became one of the causes for the Spanish-American War, which was facetious because the Navy already knew that it was not sabotage. It was just a problem that old coal-burning warships had. Now, back from that, we have the Monroe Doctrine, and
Oh,
nobody
can we
cited.
pause on that for 1 second? Because
Hold
that's
on.
well, no, no,
I'm
wait,
gonna. The Monroe Doctrine is minor,
well, it's
but
not
there.
mine because I want
No, there. No, right now, Monroe Doctrine is enabled by 2 articles in the
okay, no, no,
Constitution
no,
of the
Judge, what
United
I'm saying
States.
is I wanna well, I'm gonna touch on that, but not
Yeah.
right
Okay.
now. So let's just pin that
Yeah.
because I
Okay.
wanna go into this real quick. Um, Mendora, Nicholas Mendora, surrounded by heavy security as he is transported to a New York City court.
There is being
So it
walked out
looks
to
like
the
they may
facility.
have landed that helicopter on the soccer field. Now, there is the helipad on the West Side Highway side that they use the 32nd Street.
There's
that they
some
used
also
originally.
downtown.
So it looks like now they decided to use use the soccer field as a landing pad for those helicopters. This is a huge security operation as well because, as you know, he's a part of those narco terrorists, TDA, and as well. And so they're on high security alert because they have their own resources, their own drones as well.
So they have, you got to read the 25-page indictment. They have an airtight case on this guy. I'm not saying there's not going to be moments that things are going to be tossed out and they might be lengthy and it's going to be costly. But they got him dead to rights through 3 administrations. And you know, that's why the bounty was on his head. And most people, prior to President Trump grabbing him, everyone was agreement he had to go.
This is unbelievable. This is in Brooklyn, New York, where he is in jail, and they're putting him on this chopper. They're going to take him into Lower Manhattan. The federal district court is in Chinatown, and they'll transport him there. They're doing this because there's a lot of traffic in New York, A, and B, I think for security reasons. They want to make sure he gets to the courthouse and that he's safe. This is going to be a typical briefing today. He and his wife will appear there together. They'll both enter their pleas. They're expected to be non-guilty. Then bail will be addressed, and the next court date will be set. There will not be cameras in the courtroom, and this is the first step of years-long prosecution, because they're going to take probably another year to seat a jury to weigh in on all the evidence they have against him. But Donald Trump said the judge is a respectable judge, and he said we'll most certainly order them to be held without bond. They say that he will ask prosecutors and the defense attorneys how much time they will need to prepare for a trial.
Okay, that was so much BS. That reminds me of what happened after the first Gulf War went down and CNN found itself with a lot of spare time on its hands trying to do 24/7 news. Had it not been for Gulf War One, CNN would have been bankrupt. But in any event, they got saved, and what they wound up happening is, for instance, there was a rogue cop went crazy out and, well, he went rogue on the Los Angeles Police Department, and they were tracking him out into the California woods, and a log cabin literally got set on fire. So for 43 minutes, we sat there and watched the idiot bobblehead, the talking heads, Babylon. Chuck, do you think he was in that?
Oh my God. Somebody must have called him.
Chuck, do you think he?
Okay.
Oh God!
Can you hear me? Can you
Damn
hear
it!
me? Somebody must have called him. Oh, he's about to go in too. Give us a second. Give us a second. Because listen, we want to cover it all. Can you hear me? I can't see you or hear you. Can you hear me? No. All right, here we go. Can you hear me? I can't hear you now. Wait, Judge, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. All right. I still can't hear you. Yeah, you guys can hear me, but you can't hear him. A webcam with a PC. Okay, so he has a new desktop. So you saying that he should add a webcam? Yeah, it's just that the setup, so you could see his barbecue sauce advertisement. It just catches different desktop. Okay, there you go.
All right, what happened was this LA cop went rogue, so they tracked him down, maybe, and there was a burnt log cabin in some California woods. And for 43 minutes by my watch, the talking heads were going, Chuck, do you think he may have been in there? I don't know, Al. If he was, he's in trouble. He's got problems now. Well, I don't really understand. Did they follow him? I don't know. And then they were looking at the same thing the audience is looking at, and they commented nonsensically for 43 minutes on garbage. It's a waste of time. That's what you just saw here, the picture of the helicopter. They could have given us 15 seconds, one of their sound bites, instead of a long drawn out thing for this. And that's what they do now. They give you 15 seconds for a sound bite for the vital stuff, and 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes worth of nonsense. Now, what the deal is this. Ostensibly, this was done under the Monroe Doctrine, but there's also an enabler to the Monroe Doctrine, which is still federal law, passed as a statutory scheme almost 200 years ago. Now, what that is Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution and Article 6 of the Constitution. Article 1 contains a lot of stuff in it. And one of them is the pursuit, eradication, and suppression of piracy wherever found in the world. It mandates that is a responsibility of the armed forces of the United States. There's no declaration of war that's needed for that. Also, there is in Article 1, Section 8, shall enforce the law of nations. That's a quote of the provision. There is no need for a declaration of war on that. Permission of Congress, that is an affirmative obligation of the armed services and the commander in chief, both of them commander in chief. Article 6 of the Constitution says ratified treaties will be part of the supreme law of the land along with the Constitution. All right. Now, going from that, we have ratified treaties that make drug trafficking on the high seas an international crime. Quote, the law of nations shall be enforced by the armed services of the United States. The Monroe Act, which is 200 years old, relied upon that article of the U.S. Constitution for its legitimacy. We've got Noriega from Panama, who was indicted for drug trafficking. We've got bin Laden, who was a pirate because air piracy, hijacking, remember, 4 aircraft on 911 caused some problems. That is now piracy. So there was an affirmative obligation of the armed services and the commander in chief to go after him. Now,
Okay, so
that is
yeah, slow down. I want to get back to the courtroom because I told you we're going
okay.
to talk
Well,
about
the courtroom is superfluous right now because what they did is they also indicted him on some federal law dealing with domestic matters because there is an impact with what he was doing. What that is about is called the Two Sons Cartel. And the Sons stand for the emblems that Venezuelan generals wear on their lapels. Not lapels, on the epaulets. What it is we wear stars for our generals and admirals. They wear suns. So the whole command hierarchy of the Venezuelan army has invested in drug trafficking, cocaine, opium that is brought in from other places, from Korea and also the Middle East and also from Israel. There is a blind eye that the U.S. government had been turning on all of this because the money generated was supposed to be used to fund black ops going after communism and after that terrorism. And it is a real live long mess. So, one thing that you and I talked about yesterday was it makes a hell of a difference when you're in drug trafficking if you have a safe haven you can escape to. That's how you get on the more legitimate front what the CIA does, what British MI6 does, what the Mossad does, what the old Soviet KGB did, and that is you have your agents do what they do, and if they can escape to an embassy, if they can escape back to their homeland, then they're safe and nobody can touch them. Generally, a drug dealer has nowhere to go except under the table. If he can hide out or flee the country he's going to, and there's no embassy he can run to for diplomatic immunity purposes. So this was appropriate. If you recall the situation with the Cuban Missile Crisis with Khrushchev, who, by the way, was a Ukrainian, and John F. Kennedy back in 1962, you will understand that this is not something that is unusual. There was what shall we call a embargo, a blockade that the United States put on Cuba. And it's the same thing that was not working sufficiently when the U.S. put a blockade on Venezuela with their trafficking, drug trafficking. And the other thing is that the oil tankers that were seized arguably are the property of American interests that were nationalized without due process of our law, and the property rights were extinguished without adequate compensation. So, protecting our citizens both at home and abroad, that was another reason to get into it.
wait. So, all right, let me ask you
The
this.
one last other important point. See, it wasn't so much that the oil itself was going to terrorist factions. What was going on is the income was going. So if you want to cut somebody off at the knees, cut the money off in the day's work. So
So
that's what that was about. So it's legit, straight up, precedented, on top. And the Bush administration put the $25 million bond reward up for uh, his capture, and also you've got the Obama
Bush, what are you talking
administration that
about?
ordered bin
Slow
Laden's.
down, slow down. What are you talking
Mhm.
about? Bush. Bush didn't put $25 million on Mendora's head.
Yes, he did. So
Mendora wasn't even in power then. What are you talking about?
no, it's from years ago. Bush was in power when he
But
put.
Mendora wasn't president. Which
He
president?
wasn't president. What happened is there was a predecessor. That person is no longer amongst the living. And what went on is there was an election that was held, and that election was won by a woman, but the military junta disregarded the election and they kept power amongst themselves. Maduro was the previous person, Chavez's second in authority, and he managed
No,
the
no.
affairs.
Hugo Chavez was the president.
Well, yeah,
Maduro
but
was
Maduro was his secondary man who
right.
handled
That wasn't
administration.
but Bush didn't put the bounty on Mendora because he was nowhere in power. You talking about either Biden or Trump.
Maduro has been in power for a bit more than a year. Trump's been in the office 1 year, and on the 20th, he will have been in 1 year. So, anyway, this has all been happening. Time passes quickly as you get a little older, you know. I mean, it seems like nothing at all, but it's been more
Yeah,
than
it
a
was
year.
so it wasn't Bush administration. You're going too far back. It was the Biden administration and
I mean Biden.
yeah.
I
So
confused the two of them. They're
yeah, but
quite similar.
that's why I was just saying that make correcting because people would take it and run with it. So I want to get
It's
back
Biden, not Bush.
I want to get back to the courtroom
Exactly
because
right.
him and his him and his wife pleaded not guilty um, Monday on narcotic charges, and their next court date is March 17th. So it doesn't say anything here about bail. So what? So with your first appearance at this type of case, this type of major case here, what
No
comes?
bond. There's no bond appropriate because no bond would just ensure his continued appearance. He has the entire resources of a major country in the world that is a major oil producing country with great wealth that has been demonstrating its both capacity and inclination to disregard international protocol, to ferret illegal substances and people from one location to another. And this is the type of thing that you would consider when setting a bond, which would say no bond is sufficient to ensure that he'll show back up. Now, they've
Well,
already pulled this off. They're lucky they didn't shoot him.
the military.
The Obama administration claimed they went out to execute bin Laden. I suspect that was a mess up considering the circumstances, and what they wanted to do was capture him, put him on board the aircraft carrier, and it would have been interesting trying to bring him to trial,
Mhm, mhm.
which they would have done, and they could have interrogated him for months. And the Obama administration, before the next election came up, could have bragged about, we caught bin Laden. But I think they shot him when he was up on that balcony by accident, and they ran with the story that they went to kill him because
Really?
of.
Oh, Bin Laden.
Yeah, so anyway,
Well, the Switzerland has frozen Mendora's assets, his bank account. So even if and then probably other banks as well. So if they even gave him a bond, he probably couldn't make it. But like you said, there's no bond, not in this type of
no, the bond is only not to punish, that some people think, because a person's presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. It is to ensure that the accused will appear for the entirety of the proceedings until they are completed, one way or the other. And this is just nonsense. What does this do to watch several people walk across the parking lot. What do you get out of that? Nothing. It's a waste of time. It's just because they've got nothing better to do and nobody understands it, and they're rushing, trying to find what little 23-year-old knows somebody that's in law school someplace that might give them a slight clue, which is not going to suffice because they should have got this in elementary school like we did. What's going on? Monroe Doctrine. All through the fifth
One
grade, we
second, one
talked about
second, one
Monroe
second. All
Doctrine.
right, all right, all right. So now the dictate. So what's going on now in Venezuela? They're saying that the statue of the former dictator Hugo Chavez is being dragged through the streets. But you have a lot of people outside of the courthouse today. They have pro Maduro and anti Maduro. So of course,
Yeah, that's typical U.S. You get the far left. Oh my God, they invaded another country. And that sounds like America at all times until we actually get pitched into a real live shoot 'em up, with the exception of something like Vietnam, which was highly unpopular and was an ill-advised struggle to get into in the first place that you can lay at Kennedy's feet. But bottom line is this is just typical of the U.S. The Venezuelans are celebrating in the streets of Venezuela at being liberated from oppression, because there are a lot of them that lived in Venezuela where it was an interesting republic where people voted and their votes counted and there was law and order, and now it devolved into a fascist situation, a totalitarian situation, which the American Democrats are trying to impose in a softer edition where it's rainbow rather than some hard-edged emblem that's out there to typify this is a big brother or fearless leader doing whatever's doing. So fearless
I want to play
tranny
this.
big sister or something, I guess now.
Want to play this clip right here because the UN, they're in session today. They were talking about it, but I want to play what Mark Rubio had to say about the UN.
No, you're wrong in your question. Number one, Venezuela is a major source, and the reason why is the following. And I've seen a lot of this reporting, and it's fake reporting, and I'll tell you why. It says that somehow Venezuela is not involved in the drug trade because the UN says they're not involved in the drug. I don't care what the UN says. The UN doesn't know what they're talking about. Maduro is indicted by a grand jury in the Southern District of New York. That means the Southern District of New York presented the evidence to a grand jury, and a grand jury indicted him. And then a superseding indictment came out that was unsealed about a year and a half ago that specifically detailed Maduro's actions. So number one, let there be no doubt, Nicolas Maduro is an indicted drug trafficker in the United States, and he's a fugitive of American justice.
Alleged drug trafficker, and that's from 2022. Yeah, that's the American process. See, we've got an international court in The Hague, and they're always issuing warrants for somebody's arrest, but they don't have the power to back it up. So this time you've got the international policeman said, oh, hey, we're coming in. We've got Trident missile submarines, Virginia, Seawolf, and LA class subboats. We've got nuclear aircraft carriers, R.L.I. Burke's destroyers, and F-22s, F-35s, B-1s, B-2s, B-52s, and we will come in and thrash you good and proper, and we can throw in some National Guard F-16s and F-15Es in the mix, and you have nothing that can stand up to it. So move over, we're coming through. Get out the way if you can.
So I want to play this clip here of Mandani talking about the
And look at the crook over here to his left.
Letitia James.
Oh, they're not through with Tish.
Well,
That was just an indictment got dismissed because the authority that presented it was held not to be properly confirmed, but it ain't over yet.
okay, let's see. So let's play this clip.
About this over the weekend, but I'm wondering if there's been any updates at all in terms of transportation of Maduro from Brooklyn to Manhattan, by helicopter. Unfortunately, is my understanding. Do you have any information about whether or not that's completed? Are they going to shut down the bridge? They did Chapo.
So I continue to stay in constant communication with my police commissioner and the NYPD, and my job as the mayor of New York City is to ensure that any federal action has a limited impact on the day-to-day lives of New Yorkers, and that's what we're going to continue to deliver on.
Just a quick off topic. Hi, Mr. Mayor. How are you doing?
Hey, how's it going, Joe?
Good. I was wondering if you could give us any updates on your security clearance. And on the timeline, do you sense anything is like amiss or unusual, or does it seem like this is the standard course of business? And since you don't have it yet, can you walk us in a little more detail about how you're getting information and what kinds of information?
Absolutely. Everything is going as according to a typical timeline. I'm in the process of applying for that clearance, and I'm also thankful that there are senior members of my team that already have that clearance thanks to past positions that they've held. And so as a result of that, New Yorkers have nothing to fear about my ability to both represent our city and also to deliver for it.
Mr. Trump, President Trump, you have some security clearances to revoke right now. Get on it. You've been advised. You heard it. Staff, go tell the president about this. He has the ultimate authority on who has a security clearance. There are some that need to be revoked. This bunch of radical fascist / communist agents that we have in New York do not need a security clearance for anything outside of New York State business.
So
And that's their business, not ours.
let me just I wanna highlight this here, right? Because this is a quick clip of Maduro when he was active president a while back, basically saying that 85% of the cartel's money is being laundered through U.S. banking system.
El 85% de los miles de millones del narcotráfico internacional anual están en los bancos de Estados Unidos. Ahí está el cartel, que lo investiguen y lo descubran. El lavado de dinero. Mira, yo estaba viendo los datos que dio la vicepresidenta y creo que son más de 500.000 millones de dólares anuales que están en la banca de Estados Unidos, en los bancos legales. Si ellos quisieran investigar un cartel, que investiguen el cartel del norte, porque allá es que desde Estados Unidos que se dirige todo el narcotráfico de Sudamérica y del mundo, porque también dirigen el narcotráfico del opio, etcétera, etcétera. Es en los Estados Unidos que están las mafias, que están los verdaderos carteles.
Now, you know what's going to work out on
El
this one?
85%.
Sorry.
This is going to be beautiful. See, his wife, Maduro's wife, sent two guys up into the United States a few years ago. They wound up getting caught and indicted and convicted. They were exchanged, the two of them, for 7 operatives that we were interested in. That shows illustrates the point I was making when this female basketball star got caught with the hash oil in Russia. They wasted her trade under the Biden administration by trading her for the merchant of death. Please, she wasn't worth the merchant of death. You see, that was a giveaway. You could have gotten 20 of our agents out, 20 agents worth the merchant of death. We could have gotten good American patriot types who were putting their lives on the line for our country. We could have gotten them free, but we gave it away for some clown who decided she was going to take hash oil in through a major airport. So anyway, we got that. But you see, what happens is his wife's men got traded 2 for 7.
Maduro's wife?
Yeah, she has sent 2 people in. They got busted 3 years ago, and what wound up happening is they just recently got traded, the 2 of them, for 7 operatives that we were interested in. What's likely to happen with this is you heard what he said, or at least you read the translation. And what they're going to do is work up a deal with him. They're going to trade information on who in the American banking system has been laundering money way up at the top of the crime heap, and they're going to wind up trading and letting him go someplace. See, they offered him a deal. He could have retired and gone to some place and lived a life of luxury, but he didn't. So they'll probably give him a reduced offer in return for information if he collaborates, because it would be in interest of reducing criminality to find out who the people are at the top that have been financing and laundering money and enabling this to happen. You remember that thing, Blacklist?
The show?
The show.
Never watched it, but I know of it.
Okay. In other words, Raymond Reddington was the one that knew all this information, and his blacklist would be composed of people that this man could tell us about. In
So
other words, they enabled the high level crime.
so the question that I asked, what's happened next? Maybe I should ask a more better question is, so do you think that former president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, will do time in a United States federal penitentiary, or is he going to make a deal? You like
He might, in other words, he might still do time. They might say, well, you know what? You do almost 90% of your time. You get 5 years, you don't get 5 years, you get 60 months. You wind up doing 56 of those months under federal custody. You get 4 months off. You get 10 years, you get 120 months. You get 6 months off out of the 10 years if you get all the good and honor time. So Noriega got 40 years and he's dead now. They wound up commuting his sentence and letting him go after he'd served about 17 years, and he's dead now. He got 40, and he might want to work out a deal for information when he gets tired of being confined and told when he can wipe his butt and when not. And he might say, hey, get me out of here. Things happen in the system.
right? All right. So, because child, you came in talking about the Monroe. So the Monroe Doctrine. My question is, the Trump administration, was it legal for the Trump administration to go into Venezuela and capture former
Yeah.
President Nicolas Maduro?
Yeah, the Monroe Doctrine required it, and the Monroe Doctrine, being a congressional act, has to comply with the Constitution. It complies with Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution and Article 6. Article 1, Section 8 specifically says it's the duty of the Commander-in-Chief in the Armed Services of the United States to pursue, eradicate, and suppress piracy wherever found. That's why the Marines have that from the halls of Montezuma. That was the Mexican-American War in 1842 to the shores of Tripoli, which was 1806 when they fought the Barbary pirates. And that is also subject to the other provision in Article 1, Section 8, which is it is the duty of the commander-in-chief, et cetera, to, quote, enforce the law of nations, unquote. And the law of nations are subject to Article 6, which says ratified treaties become part of the supreme law of the land. And there are quite a few ratified treaties that the U.S. is privy to that were ignored by previous administrations that required us to do something about the international shipment and distribution of narcotics. And we're not just talking about fentanyl, which is bad enough. We're talking about heroin, other opiates. We're talking about cocaine, lots and lots of coke. So also guns being trafficked too, because the illegal guns aren't sold across the counter. They come in the crates along with the kilos of dope.
Right.
And that is not really a full-fledged effort anyway, because the drug trafficking, the arms trafficking is used as a way to raise funds off the books to deal with black ops, which means you're trying to previously take on communist forces or now so-called terrorists or extreme elements of fanaticism. So it is what it is.
Can you give us the history of the? Well, actually, wait. Before I ask you for the history, let me just play this clip because you know Donald Trump, honey, he's calling it the Don Doctrine.
All of these actions were in gross violation of the core principles of American foreign policy, dating back more than 2 centuries. And not anymore. All the way back, it dated to the Monroe Doctrines. And the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal, but we've superseded it by a lot, by a real lot. They now call it the Donroe Document. I don't know. It's Monroe Doctrine. We sort of forgot about it. It was very important, but we forgot about it. We don't forget about it anymore. Under our new national security strategy, American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again.
It's called, he calls it the Dunroe Doctrine because of dominance.
Oh,
See,
I thought he was saying Don because of Donald Trump.
no, no,
Oh.
Dominance. See, here's the thing. The U.S. had just gotten away from Great Britain. It finally set up a navy, gotten some authority to setting up a great economy, agrarian and industrial. And they did not want any more of the problems that had been had with France, Spain, and England messing around in the New World. So they were saying, okay, you guys go along with stuff that is tolerable, it's okay. But if anybody comes in here and gets out of line, we're not going to give this uh, a moment where totalitarianism can come in here. Now, the fact of the matter is, Venezuela, Peru, and Argentina had big navies toward the end of the 19th century. They bought a lot of warships made in England. We had let our navy just rot after the Civil War, and there was nothing. So
We did?
so we had nothing. So when they decided that they were going to start seizing American ships on the high seas, Venezuela specifically, Congress said, you know, this is embarrassing. We're probably the greatest industrial country in the world, or about there. We've got the whole continent under our sway, Pacific coast to uh, East Coast, railways, and we can't even protect our interest. We need a navy. So they authorized the first two battleships that we got. One of them was number two, that was the Maine. And remember, the Maine was the justification for the Spanish American War, where the nascent American fleet got in some real quality combat time and annihilated the Spanish Navy down in Cuba and then in the Philippines in the Pacific.
The Monroe Doctrine, U.S. foreign policy stated in 1823 that warned European powers against further colonization or interference in the Western Hemisphere. So basically, we tell other countries, stay out of our business over here. What we do over here is what we do. Never mind you interfering.
Yeah, in other words, see, we could have taken Canada, and all of that would have been much better had it been under our domain. We wound up buying Alaska from the Russians. We're trying to get Greenland right now from the Scandinavians. We got a good swath of our country from France when we had the Louisiana Purchase. We acquired Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and California from the Spanish, and we also got well, not Cuba, but Guantanamo, the naval base in the middle of Cuba. We got the Philippines, we set them free. We got control of Panama. We signed a 99-year lease, but when Noriega got out of hand, Noriega, we went down there and get it together. Ain't gonna be no S like that,
Yeah, with the whole
And we got
Panama
Puerto Rico that is
Puerto Rico.
eligible to become a state, and we
Let me
have American Samoa and Hawaii and all of these things, and we have expanded.
asserting separate spheres of influence in exchange for the U.S. staying out of European conflicts, becoming a cornerstone of American strategy to protect newly independent Latin American nations and U.S. interests, evolving from defensive to justifying intervention through the Roosevelt corollary. Corollary.
Corollary.
Yeah. So, key principles of the doctrine: non non-colonization, American continents are closed to future European colonizations. Non-intervention, European nations shouldn't interfere in political affairs of the Americas. Separate spheres, the US and Europe should remain in distant hemispheres with separate political systems. Reciprocity, the US would not meddle in European wars or internal matters. But don't we do that anyway?
Yeah, we kind of sort of walk softly,
Ukraine.
carry a big stick.
Right. So the initial goal, protect newly independent Latin American nations from European recolonization, asserting US influence. Trump did say we are going to be taking control of the Venezuelan government until a proper suitable leader surfaces. The
Can
vote,
I translate?
yes.
2 years before I was born, we concluded World War II. When we finished up World War II, it was not Russia, it was not China, it was certainly not Germany. It was the United States that had fielded the largest military in world history. We had 18 million people under uniform. There has never been a war fighting organization that big or as well equipped. We had everything: fleet, Marines, Army, Air Force. Nobody could deal with us and the atomic bomb because we had Albert Einstein and the Manhattan Project, and we did our thing. So,
So, bless you. Bless you, bless you, bless you.
ah,
It says
so
the Roosevelt corollary, 1905, President Theodore Roosevelt expanded it, allowing the US to intervene in Latin American countries to prevent European intervention, shifting from defensive to justifying US intervention.
see, what we did is they had the voyage of the Great White Fleet, and we painted our Navy white. And Roosevelt sent the Navy on a worldwide tour. It circumnavigated the globe and visited everybody's biggest harbor and said, hey, look what we got.
Cornerstone policy, bless you again, become a fundamental part of US grand strategy in the Americas throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. Background: Spain's colonies were gaining independence, and there were fears of European powers trying to reclaim them or Russia expanding in the Northwest. John Quincy Adams' role, U.S. Secretary of State John Quincy Adams, was crucial in persuading President Monroe to issue an independent American statement emphasizing U.S. sovereignty and foreign policy. So Monroe Doctrine come from President Monroe.
Mm-hmm. It's 202 or 3 years old. What is
Yeah,
1823?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Wow, it's
Slave
203
slavery
years
wasn't
old.
even outlawed then.
Yeah.
Slavery was still going on. But it's funny though, because it's not funny. Even though so issuing the Monroe Doctrine, right, during 1823, slavery was still legal in America, and slavery was still legal in South America, where you have Brazil, which was colonized by Portugal, Spain and others. So Portugal was benefiting from slavery in Brazil, not America, but we didn't intervene with their legal economy practice.
They were benefiting by what the Dahomians were doing. By the way, Dahomey was the subject of that farcical mess of the woman king that everybody wanted to go see. I just thought it
Are you
was.
really going to blame the
I
Hunger
am
Games
no.
for
I'm
if
just saying the absurdity of all of these Negroes piling up and delivering enormous box office to go see one of the primary instruments in enslavement in world history, the Dahomians, and want to sit there and it was such a great movie. What's wrong with you, fool? That's like Jews going out and giving massive box office to go deal with sellouts during the Holocaust or something. That's crazy.
All right. So I don't want to go too
That,
far.
I mean, it's just ignorance. The public gets propagandized into believing practically anything. So now we've got the Democrats trying to say, oh my God, he's a warmonger. Well, let's put it this way. Your boy, Democratic President John F. Kennedy, had the embargo on Cuba. Your boy, Woodrow Wilson, let's not forget this, sent the Marines into Haiti and created this mess that we are still dealing with to this day, set up Papa Doc and all of that. That was 1922, 1923. Excuse me, your guy, Barack Obama, went and wiped out Osama bin Laden in recent times, okay. So exactly what is this? It was, guess what? Democratic President Monroe that came up with this doctrine in the first place. So what are you squawking about? It's your guys that did it.
I guess they're going to say, oh, those were the racist Democrats that turned Republican today. No,
Yeah,
no.
well, the Democratic Party is still about the same thing the old slave Democratic Party was about, except instead of growing cotton, where cotton is king, they got tranny queen rainbow that everybody goes off on. So,
So, all right, terrorists, right? So, United States has declared Cartel de los Soles as a terrorist group.
yeah, that's the two sons, de la Soles. Soles is a son. That's the emblem from the Venezuelan general staff that runs the drug trade.
So it says the Department of State intends to designate Cartel de los Soles as foreign terrorist organization. This was back in November 24th, 2025. Based in Venezuela, the Cartel de los Soles is headed by Nicolas Maduro and other high-ranking individuals of illegitimate Maduro regime who have corrupted Venezuela military, intelligence, legislature, and judiciary. Neither Maduro nor his cronies represent Venezuela's legitimate government. Cartel de los Soles by and with other designated FTOs, including Tren de la Agua. I know I'm tearing up that name, but that is the gangs that came here during the open border and increased the numbers.
Damn fool Biden administration. Damn fool Harris was in charge of the southern border. A bunch of damn fools. I wish there was something they could be tried for treason on, because they sure as the devil compromised our interest.
And the Sinaloa cartel are responsible for terrorist violence throughout our hemisphere, as well as for trafficking drugs into the United States and Europeans. That is all true.
Now, and by the way, we haven't seen the last of it yet. Hamas doesn't like us.
Right.
ISIS doesn't like us. Al Qaeda hates our very guts. Iran doesn't like us. North Korea doesn't like us. The Chinese are grinning as they scoop in the money from their investments in the American economy and say, it wouldn't hurt to get you guys a little settled down by a little bit of internal strife. And these jerks let in all of these interests across our border, welcome them in with military grade explosives in their backpacks. Nobody even checked to see what they brought in with them. And they are in place, and they don't have to go play suicide bomber now, strapped down. I'm going to blow myself up. Boom, and I go with the blast. They can say, well, let's see, let's arm the device. Okay, flip the switch. Boom. Oh, that's a big explosion over there on the horizon. I guess we got them. Yay.
So, where we at right here? Oh,
there is this thing, you left-wing curs, get your balls grown, make them filled with cast iron or at least clay. There's this thing in world history called might makes right. And until you get it, you aren't worth governing, because you give it away like you were trying to under the Biden-Harris administration. When you say, come on in, take us over, blow us up, if you get mad.
well, somebody in the chat said, when is the international? And honestly, I do not I do not acknowledge questions in the chat unless it's in a form of a super chat. So I'm not going to say a name, but I will ask the question. When is the international court going to intervene? Okay, for
If
what?
we give them permission.
Right. And people don't
If
understand.
we give them permission.
People don't understand this, Judge, because we're talking about the UN and international courts. See, other countries, they don't have that caveat. They don't have that leverage. We are the only ones that, I forgot the name of it, but it's like you know how you all make a pact and you sign an agreement. United States is the only one that didn't sign whatever agreement to be upheld by the international law, but we gave ourselves power to veto ourselves from international law.
No, you know what it is?
I know I'm saying it kind of wrong, but it's something to
No, let me explain what it is. It's
we can
18.
exempt ourselves from that.
It is 1876. You're on the American frontier, complete lawlessness. Billy the Kid has been running amok. You know, you've got a bunch of folk, Jesse and James and his crew have been doing their thing. And here's the U.S. Marshal. He's saying, I tell you what, I got my pistol on my hip, my 12 gauge in the cradle of my arm, and I'm going to blow anybody away that gets out of line. Now, let's see if you want to take me on, and I got my posse with me too. So that's what's going on. In other words, may I translate very down to the bottom of this thing? You don't like it, we'll kick your ass. And if we choose not to kick your ass, you need to understand that we are not kicking your ass because we choose not to. Now, if you're Russia or China, no point in us duking it out because we're kind of equal. So you guys ain't worth that yet. But if we can sneak in a punch while they are debating whether or not it's worth taking us on and exterminating the human race, or at least blasting everybody back to the Stone Age, we will kick your ass. And it ain't going to be no shit like Vietnam.
Well,
We learned our lesson.
let me
And there's no big military in the world right now outside of what's happening with Russia and Ukraine that has got as much recent military experience where they have non-commissioned officers and officers in all ranks who've been shot at, didn't run, and showed balls and did what they had to do and learned the trade of killing. So we are good at it.
Well, I need to freshen up on my UN laws and rules and regulations because I actually visited the UN in college and took a course in that. It's very fascinating. But at the end of the day, the UN really don't do shit. I wanted to
We
read.
started this thing. See, we came up with the League of Nations.
Yes.
And we started it, but our Senate refused to ratify the treaty, so we weren't part of it. World War II happened, and at the end of World War II, the United States set up NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, SATO, South Eastern Treaty Organization, and the United Nations. Now, all of the countries that became part of the UN had a vote, but it was interesting. The United States, Russia, England, France had veto authority. In other words, because of the status of the militaries involved, they could say, hey, we don't like it. I don't care what you voted on, we veto it. We've got veto power.
Right. That's what I was trying to get to. Right. Thank you. It says here US isn't entirely exempt from international law, but asserts sovereignty, often not recognizing international criminal court jurisdiction or ratifying certain treaties like UNCLOS, creating unique exceptions, though it treats international law as binding when it chooses, integrating treaties into its legal system and subject to judiciary review for compliance, particularly concerning sovereign immunity for foreign nations under the FSIA.
Was that AI generated?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, sounds like it. It's bullshit. Bottom line is, if our president doesn't want it, it ain't gonna happen. Our Constitution says our president is our chief diplomatic officer, and if he says ain't no way, no how, then go screw yourself. You get screwed. So
I want you to give the public a tip because you really don't like it when when I get to googling and the AI come up with stuff or whatever. So and you always say that doesn't mean it's actually accurate. So if someone wanted to now today, if you want to get accurate information, would you suggest people like going to their library, to the archives? Like where would you suggest people go outside of AI and Google search?
all places. You can use AI. It won't help to get sources, but be aware of what AI has called hallucinations. For example, Alaska set up an AI system to deal with its probate courts.
Mhm.
All kinds of complaints about my condolences. It would chat with the people. They didn't want to hear this thing say condolences or anything. So then it got too abrupt. But it hallucinates and it checks the web and it goes everywhere in the world to come up with solutions that don't happen to be applicable to where you need the solution. So, for example, people would say, how do I get a good lawyer to handle a probate matter since my grandparent died? Okay. And it will say, you can go to the records of law schools, and there are recent law graduates in Alaska that came out of our law schools. You should check and see if you can find a lawyer there. Well, Alaska doesn't have a law school. So that was so much bullshit. It was what they call a hallucination. And when you go and Google stuff, if you go to the top of the page over to the left, that's if you go directly through Google and you're not just touching on the stuff, you will see you can opt out of having AI generated answers. Now, a lot of times, if you do that, you will find you get something entirely different. You can have debates with AI. X's Grok is sometimes real full of shit because it does not know what it is doing and it's taking a perspective and you can twist it around
Mhm.
and bust the thing with it. And see, there is this point where our law is probably the best that's ever been compounded when it comes to dealing with the thing called human nature. It
Mhm.
tries to accommodate it. And humanity is not perfect, nor should it be. There is an element in what humans do that is not logical, and it shouldn't be. For example, these driverless cars that they were having operate, uh, they are programmed to protect the passengers, right? Well, here's a 3-year-old child dashes out between two parked cars. The algorithm is going to say squash the kid and save the people in the car. But that irrational, non logical thing that is part of humanity will say, oh, heck, I got to take this one. And you crash and you saved a 3-year-old child. See,
Mhm.
those things still have not been resolved and
Right. Well, I want to
not yet.
so just to end on the Monroe Doctrine segment, honey. Listen, I don't know who is running a White House X account. It must be somebody young, a young Gen X or millennial or Gen Z. But I thought this was creative.
Venga por mí. Aquí lo espero en Miraflores. No se tarde en llegar, cobarde. And now, if you don't know, now you know.
I like Trump. He's got style.
So,
See, you know what? The mistake was made back in the Reagan era when they deregulated the television industry, the news reporting, and they did not maintain fairness in reporting. So what happens is you allow the number one propaganda engine in the whole world that everybody that was into propaganda studied, that was the American Hollywood industry, to put its full weight behind the people it thought it wanted. And that's what you have now. The American public has been propagandized to go for bullshit. So now you have Trump who comes in, and I like that. He's 6 feet, what, 5? And he comes in and,
I think
he's got
too.
what the Romans call gravitas, gravity. He's a heavyweight dude, don't take any mess. And he walks in, you've got the officers lined up on the side here. That's impressive. You put the music to the background. He gets the point across. This is badass.
Oh, and I do like the selection. They could have bleeped out the N word, but that was Biggie. That's my generation because you don't like hip hop, but it works well with this clip. So
Yeah, in other words, I will kick your ass. And the public has been propagandized to listen to that through hip hop rap, gangster rap for a long time. So I tell folk, you don't have to look like a thug to be able to vest power. Sometimes the guys with the suits on got a whole lot more juice than you do.
mhm.
And I like this. It's like, what did Roosevelt say?
What?
Speak softly, carry a big stick.
What?
He said, speak softly and carry a big stick. In other words, I will whip your ass. See my stick,
Oh my god.
Bam.
Um, Speaking of X, because you mentioned X real quick. 1 second, because I saved it and I wanna highlight her. So, what it looks like, we do it this way, okay. So, Nikki, I followed her. She wrote this today at Elon Musk. Grunk reports same as judge. Ex appeal process is dysfunctional. CC me, the real Dana. Grunk, Judge Joe Brown, TV remains suspended as of January 5th, 2026, with no announced timeline for reinstatement. Brown attributes the delayed party to his influential commentary on topics like Memphis corruption, suggesting it may be disproportionately targeted despite no clear policy breach. Judge Joe Brown has repeatedly attempted to appeal his X account suspension through the platform's official process since it occurred in late November 2025. He describes the appeal system as dysfunctional. Submissions loop back to original suspension notice without providing any substantive response,
Substantive.
substantive response, clear reasons beyond the initial claim, suspected automation or impersonation, or guidance or resolution. In public statements shared via videos on platforms like YouTube, often posted by supporters or interviewers, Brown explains that X notified him the suspensions were due to the account appearing automated or not genuine, despite it being his verified personal account with over 131,000 followers. He has explicitly warned he has been explicitly warned by X not to create a new account, with threats of permanent ban if he does so. Brown and his supporters have bypassed the stall internal appeals by rallying public pressure, frequently tagging Elon Musk at support and at XIN in posts and X in a post demanding a manual review. Numerous conservative users have amplified this, emphasizing his support for free speech, Elon Musk's MAGA policies, and lack of violations. As recently as early as January 2026, posts and video clips continue to highlight the issue, with Brown urging alternative contact methods to X staff and public tagging for visibility. No official response from X has been reported, and the account at Judge Joe Brown TV, 46 posts, 20 websites, X appeal process details Elon Musk's free speech.
Hey, send me that, would you?
Yes, I will. And this is Nikki O at Showbiz East 2022. I followed her. And she's a producer, screenwriter, editor. So I want to say thank you for her, to her for posting that. And I'm definitely will send that right over to you.
Yeah, that it's getting absurd. I think I got done in by AI. I don't think Grok or Grok likes me. By the way, you know where Grok comes from?
What?
It comes from the book Stranger in a Strange Land by Asimov. It's a science fiction thing. This guy grows up on Mars far in the future, and when he comes back, he is aghast to find out what's going on Earth, and he doesn't fit in because on Mars they've learned to grok, which is you reach out and you can embrace a reality that other people might not see. That's where I think they get the grok,
Oh,
Grok.
that
That's
makes
how
sense
it's
'cause,
spelled in the book.
Elon, he's in love with Mars. He's in love with Mars.
Yeah.
Elon.
Well, that's why I think he picked the thing grok, but
Yeah.
and there's another thing too. When their close kin die, they eat them out of tribute. It's a little bit of cannibalism in there too.
God. So I did send that to you, and thank you again to Miss Nikki. Appreciate that.
Thank you, my dear. I do appreciate it greatly. The support shall not be forgotten.
So moving on to getting back into Mandora, honey. So I want to play this. This is about 9 minutes, but I like first post, right? So it's the US long history of regime changes, right? So after we watch this, my question to you, Judge, is what is going to happen to Venezuela, after
They'll
at the
probably
United
do it
States?
just like they did Japan.
So before I play this, guys, please hit the like button, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, and please share this live streams on all of your social media outlets. So, all right.
While Trump's record of attacks is stark, it's also in line with American history. After all, this is what US presidents do: regime change. They've been in this business for a long, long time. Ask Iran. They got a taste of it way back in 1953. Their prime minister was Mohammad Mossadegh. He was a democratically elected leader, but the Americans got rid of him. Do you know why? Because he wanted Iran to benefit from its oil wealth. You see, until the 1950s, the West controlled Iran's oil, the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. It was a British firm, and they got a bulk of the oil money. Tehran only got a limited share. Mossadegh wanted to change that. He had the support of the parliament and the people. He tried to nationalize Iran's oil fields. Britain, of course, did not like it, so they appealed to the Americans for help. And guess what the US did? They launched what was called Operation Ajax. The CIA laid the groundwork for a coup. The first attempt failed, but in 1953, the second attempt succeeded. Mossadegh was removed. The US installed a pro-Western monarchy. It was under Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. Then in 1954, they turned to Guatemala. Their president was Jacobo Arbenz. He introduced land reforms in the country. And these reforms hurt an American company called United Fruit. This company owned a lot of land in Guatemala, so the CIA came to their help. They launched Operation PB Success. They trained 480 rebels. They launched a fear campaign and dropped leaflets from the sky. The Guatemalan army gave up without a fight. President Arbenz was removed. A military officer supported by the US took power in his place. With these two successful attempts, Washington got bolder. Their next target was Cuba. They wanted to replace Fidel Castro. They orchestrated an invasion by CIA-trained Cuban exiles. It failed. Castro came back stronger. This failed coup led to the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. Then in 1963, the US turned to South Vietnam. They wanted to counter communism in the country. The then president, Ngo Dinh Diem, was not helping. So America decided to remove him, and they did it in 1963, but the coup created a political vacuum. It destabilized South Vietnam. That same year, the US also targeted Iraq. They supported a coup against then Prime Minister Abdul Karim Qasim. He was killed. The Ba'ath Party took power. Ironically, it's the same Ba'ath Party that led to the rise of Saddam Hussein, a leader that America would dethrone decades later. In the 1970s, the focus was back on Latin America. The US had its eyes on Salvador Allende. He was the president of Chile. Richard Nixon was the US president then. Accounts suggest that he ordered the CIA to make the Chilean economy scream. In 1973, a coup ousted Allende. It led to the dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet. The next decade was about Afghanistan. The Soviets had installed a government there, so the US armed the Afghan Mujahideen. They sent them aid and weapons to counter the Soviets. In 1989, the Soviets withdrew, but Afghanistan did not stabilize. It plunged into a civil war. The Taliban came to power. And you know what grew out of the Afghan Mujahideen? The Al-Qaeda, led by Osama bin Laden, the same man who carried out the worst terror attack on American soil. But the US clearly did not learn its lesson, because in 2003, they went back to West Asia. This time, the target was Iraq. It was called the War on Terror. The Americans went after Iraq's President Saddam Hussein. They accused him of having weapons of mass destruction. None were found eventually, but the regime was toppled. And the invasion destroyed the country and the region. There was a huge power vacuum that led to the rise of terror groups like ISIS. By some estimates, the United States attempted regime change 70 times during the Cold War. 70 times. So what does all of this show you? That Washington has not learned its lesson. They may have mastered regime change, but the part that comes after, they're really bad at that. Will this time be different? I guess we'll have to wait and watch.
We have got to. Well, they did pretty well with MacArthur in Japan, where General MacArthur became the shogun of Japan. Japan is pretty well on its feet. General Marshall, who was U.S. Army Chief of Staff in World War II, five-star General Marshall, set up the Marshall Plan when he was Secretary of State under Harry Truman. And it seems Europe, Germany, France, Italy, Greece, Turkey, Spain, not so much Spain. Let's see, Britain, Switzerland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark. They're doing pretty well now. So,
she has a great point.
you know, she has a point. Sometimes we got it right, sometimes we got it wrong.
We talked about this yesterday, and my question to you, or my statement to you, was if Venezuelan economy improves under the United States control, Trump would have done what other presidents could not or did not do, actually stabilize a country that we went in.
She left a little out of there. Like I said, you had to take what happened to Japan and Europe after the end of World War II. We got them together. We put a real live crew together to do that. Not so much. John F. Kennedy was entirely too young and inexperienced. Even his
Brother
Guy McNamara ultimately winds up saying, we thought we were hot shots, but we found out we didn't know what we thought we knew. And Johnson couldn't clean it up, so it was a mess. Tricky Dick Nixon, he made some mistakes. He was a strong leader, but he was fundamentally a criminal in his heart and soul. And some other things, have happened. But sometimes we do get it right, sometimes not. And she talks about the 70 attempted rule changes. One of the bad things is Kissinger under Tricky Dick Nixon set up through the Shah of Iran, the creation of OPEC in the early 1970s. And Kissinger, as Secretary of State for the United States, was the one that called for the oil crisis to develop in 1974. So, I mean, we make a lot of bad shots. Osama bin Laden became a mortal enemy of the United States after he had been recruited by the CIA. I have had it reported to me to do a great deal of service for the country. and he got betrayed because the Reagan administration was into plausible deniability. They scapegoated Ollie North, and they tried to kill Osama bin Laden, who had been in charge of the Stinger missile cash trade that went on with the Taliban in Afghanistan with that no arms for the Contra thing in violation of the law. He had also been the one that transplanted the engineering plans for the A bomb, for the hydrogen bombs, the nukes to Pakistan to offset India back in 1980. So we make a lot of bad calls. But then again, that's part of the negative collateral damage that our system causes. It's like our whole system of elections sometimes produces great individuals and sometimes some of the lousiest, like Joe in the Hoe that were just in a little while ago.
Joe in the Hoe.
Yeah,
I
that's
thought
what they
we
talk
moved on
about.
from that.
What's that?
I thought we moved on from that, Carl.
Well, I mean, but it's just an example of how our system can go wrong, badly wrong. And
Well, you look at these presidents down here, and you look at all these countries that these little name tags on them. George Bush Sr., Gulf War, Panama, Somalia, Soviet Union, George Bush Jr., Iraq, Afghanistan, yo boy, Obama Tang, Libya, Syria, Yemen, Afghanistan, Ukraine, Clinton, Balkans, Iraq, Sudan, Rwanda. Oh, remember the Rwanda genocide?
the
And
two sitting down in there, they were trying to get their family company, Halliburton, some
boy,
benefits.
yes.
Bush Sr. Was presiding over not just the American fortunes, but the broke fortune of his families, the pot of offshore oil Inc. that was incorporated in Kuwait, and Hussein nationalized it. When they were successful down there, the Bush family fortune was restored. The second Bush over there, he wanted to get Halliburton the rights to exploit the oil resources of Iraq. Hussein signed a contract with the French and the Russians, which deprived Halliburton of its revenues. They got it back in 2007. They got the opportunity to exploit Iraqi oil. In 2008, they were bringing in 2.3 to $7 million net every 7 hours in Iraq to show how profitable it was. Dick Cheney, who was vice president to George Walker Bush, the second Bush, was a cousin, as is Barack Obama. One, two, three, the three on this end out of the five of them, they're all cousins and they're related. So we have been in the throes of family enterprise dictating foreign policy for the country. But Mr. Trump isn't in that cabal.
Yet. Well,
Well,
you know what? Again, he may be in that cabal, but if it won't
he's
be,
not related to
well,
anybody.
he's not related to none of them. But what I'm saying in his track record, this is what I do hope, because I don't trust no politician. I don't care what party line, but I do hope that as far as when we talk about geopolitics and international stuff, that his track record would be way better than these five.
Yeah, and see, but these three out of the five are blood kin relatives. They're actually related,
Mhm.
not just by marriage, but by blood kinship. In other words, in England, they'd be rivals for the royal family or something like that. Jimmy Carter was number one in his class at Annapolis, a hell of a naval officer, and he wound up being Commodore, which is unofficial rank in the U.S. Navy now, and he was in charge of the nuclear missile submarine fleet in the Northeast Atlantic during the Cold War, and then he became a peanut farmer. Bill Clinton grew up with a drunk father in a trailer park, and he was a brilliant. He's smart, and he got where he got with no help from anybody but himself. Was a Rhodes Scholar, wound up going to Yale Law School.
Oh.
He became 5-term governor down here in Arkansas, probably at the time the most corrupt state in the union, perhaps outside of Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
So he all learned all of the ins and outs. But these other three over here, Bush, and Obama, they're all blood kin relatives. Obama through his mother, through her father, his grandfather, who was first cousin to President Bush 1 and second cousin to Bush 2.
Mhm. Well, listen. So the question is, will Venezuelan economy improve with United States takeover? And
Probably, yes.
if that's the case, I don't, listen, you have to give Trump his props with Venezuela. Again, I don't trust no politician. They're all liars. They all have to do deviant things. However, if their economy improve, he will be the first president to do what other presidents have never done and could not have achieved, is actually help the people of a country that the United States took over.
I'm not
It
worried
needs
about
help.
that. I'm worried
So
about we need this country to have
So here's
somebody
my
look
second
after its
question.
interest for a
So here
change.
okay, so here's my second part to the question. Do you think, with the United States going into Venezuela to control the oil and other resources and to put a chokehold on the drug cartel, will you think that would help our American economy?
Yes, it would. See, our economy has gotten 80 years of being screwed up. It had a good foundation, but at the end of World War II, some things were put in place that were helpful to everybody's economy, but they became obsolete under the circumstances as they evolved, and nobody's changed them. They just built on top of them, and now it's a real live mess. Our economic system, our economy is constipated, and it's time for somebody to administer a laxative and squirt the enema bulb, and what comes out doesn't smell good, but somebody's got to do it.
True. I want to share this real quick.
But one problem in this,
Mhm.
we have to pay attention to who we're putting in office, because as you can see, the person that holds this office has a lot of power and authority. It's not without reason
Mhm.
that the president of the United States is called effectively the most powerful man in the world. And at least while he's occupying the office. So we have to be very careful that we don't get any more assholes in this position who are in there to push a theological agenda of
Mhm.
the rainbow or anything else rather than delivering good and effective governance.
Right. Well, it says here, a reminder, Maduro promised Biden free elections for sanctions relief, lost and stayed in power. So it's saying flashback in 2023, Biden's crew eased up on Venezuelan sanctions, trading for Maduro's pinky promise of free and fair elections, even tossing in a prisoner swamp that freed jailed Americans. Fast forward to 2024.
That's the 7 that got freed in return for the 2 his wife sent over there that got caught and busted.
And then fast forward in 2024, Maduro tanks the vote, hunkers down and power anyway, and rounds up or boots out his opponents. Classic bait and switch. So I want to play this.
The Biden administration also recently rolling back sanctions in exchange for the promise of free and fair elections. Here was President Biden when he was asked about criticism of the deal.
It's okay because they've paid Americans, people who were held illegally, and the made a deal with Venezuela at the whole free election. So far, they've maintained their requirements, and that's it.
The Biden administration also.
What did he say?
He's just saying he's giving us assurances that they'll act right, which are worthless.
They didn't, and that's why
They're
Trump
worthless.
cut the shit short. Like, no, nigga, we going in there and we getting your ass up out of here.
I don't like that word.
Well, he played a snippet of the Biggie song with the N word in it. Basically, he's okay. He said, "We get your ass up out of there." Oh my God, you come. Sometimes you could be so square.
No, I just know what it means, and
Exactly. And
what.
when you
Yeah, and I get it.
call
It's just
Mandor a nigga, an
what?
ignorant person, isn't Nicholas Mandor a nigga, an ignorant person?
No, I don't even call him that. That signifies an animal. Let me tell you something. Do you have a dog, right?
Yes,
Nice dog. I've
that's
seen your
my
dog.
baby, Kingston.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now, did you get your dog given to you, or did you have to buy the dog?
No, I didn't buy him. I went to an adoption. I went to the
Okay, you adopted him, and he was in somebody's custody and control, right?
yes.
Well, if you consider Negroes, the N word type, as being super intelligent, great African apes. You see, that's what it signifies, the lack of humanity. Chattel slavery means cattle. In other words, they're animals, not human. And I told you about that thing I read way, way back at UCLA in an archival section of a large library they had. And it was anthropology, and it was something written at the very beginning of the 20th century, and they were trying to convince people that Darwin was right about evolution. They said one only has to look at the African great apes to see the similarities. And they talked about the gestures, and one African great ape could even use language and to an extent still breed with humans. And they defined the African great apes as the chimpanzee, the gorilla, and Negroes. So that was the attitude.
But
And
you
I
said
don't
Negroes,
like
not nigga.
dehumanizing people.
Okay, I get it. Well, play this.
Hola amigos, yo soy su nuevo presidente, el señor Donaldo J. Trump. Your ex-presidente, el señor Maduro, is no longer your presidente. He kept talking shit, and fucking around, though, and he ultimately found out, though. Anyway, we're going to make Venezuela grande again. Mucho grande. El bigger, el better than ever before. We're going to drill, baby drill. We're going to have a big, beautiful fiesta, all the tacos you want. Mucho mariachi, sexy mamacitas, and delicious margaritas. And President Trump is going to be el DJ, okay? Muchas gracias, muchachos. Y let's make el Venezuela grande again. Arriba el Venezuela, amigos.
This is from his crew, propaganda crew.
No, this is just somebody. This is a random Donald Trumpo. This is a random what do you call it, parody account.
Yeah.
So the point,
That's cute.
it's all so the reason I play that because it's all fun and games. Like me saying, "Oh, he said nigga get your ass about it." It's all fun and games. See the parody mocking the
I
Latin.
get the parody. I just don't buy into it. So anyway.
So Hugo Chavez. Come on, history lesson. Real
Oh,
quick
okay. He's no
before we go to
longer with it. He's
Minnesota.
no longer with us. He kind of set up that Cartel de Soleil, the sons, the generals insignias. See, the military was behind the drug trade in Venezuela. They
Oh,
supposedly had the election. The woman got elected, but uh, somebody said, Maduro said, no, it's not going to be like that. And they staged the military junta, and they kept control, and they kept running the drug cartels and the criminal rackets. So it made
Mandora.
no difference that they had this Soleil on
So
their FLA.
when Hugo Chavez was president and Maduro was under him, it was Mandora that would go and collect the
The
money
money. He's the bag man.
from the cartel to pay Hugo because Hugo was like, "Where's my checks? Where's my payments to allow you to come through here and do business or whatever, whatever." So yeah, that
He
was
was the rat in, you seen Zootopia? The animation where the bunny rabbit wants to become a cop. She becomes a cop,
no, I
pretty
didn't see
good
that.
detective. they've got Mr. Big in there. He's the gangster, and he's got these polar bears that are his enforcers, and he's a rat. He kind of plays it like Marlon Brando played Don Corleone, and it's funny. Uh, some of the lines that I've heard kind of remind me of some of them that came out of Mr. Big's mouth in Zootopia 1 and Zootopia 2,
Oh,
mostly in Zootopia 1.
okay. Well, remember I sent this to you. I don't want to play this whole thing because this is about 8 minutes.
Want to learn about Venezuela? I'm getting the board. Whoever said teaching wasn't physical? All right, people want to know about what's going on between the United States and Venezuela, but in order to understand what's going on today, you need to understand what has gone on before. That's why history is so important, guys. Come on. Venezuela and the U.S. I've decided to do this chronologically because I feel like doing history metaphorically difficult. Number one, pre-1998. Pre-1998, Venezuela had a huge oil supply, actually, biggest in the world, and the biggest stakeholder was a U.S. company called Exxon. Why is this important? Because of their huge oil supply in Venezuela, Exxon took it over. So the vast amount of profit, the percentage of profit, went to the U.S. And Venezuela as a country got next to nothing. And because of this, their economy started to fail. And as their economy started to fail, guess what? A dictator waiting in the wings wanted to jump in and save themselves from God knows who. Oh, from the United States. How do I get stake in oil companies is taking over the entire world? Number two, 1998. That's not right. I hate it when I can't write numbers properly. Hugo Chavez was a democratically elected president of Venezuela. Now, once he got in, again I say democratically, he started to push towards authoritarianism, and he started reducing the checks and balances of the democratic system. Side point, does that remind you of anybody else? He also started to rewrite
Joe in the hole.
What?
Joe in the hole, it reminds me of. Go ahead.
So
She's coming from the left wing, I can tell.
yeah. And you watched this, right? Should I continue
No,
to
I didn't watch it. It kept
you watched it.
referring to Facebook, and I'm permanently banned from Facebook.
No, it was TikTok. Oh, you don't have a TikTok account.
No, yeah, it kept referring me to Facebook.
Oh.
To solidify his dictatorial power. Parallels are really uncanny. 2002, a woman named Maria Machado, ignore how I said that, but keep that name locked in your head because she's going to be important later, created an organization called SUMAT in order to overthrow the Chavez government. Psst, who do you think was funding her operation? You guessed it. George W. Bush, President of the United States at the time, was funding her through the National Endowment of Democracy. You know what? People just make up names to mean anything nowadays. So through this National Endowment for Democracy, the United States funded Machado in order to overthrow Chavez. And when it didn't work, Bush said, "Not my problem, I didn't know anything about it." And she was eliminated from all political life going forward. And then, in 2002, Bush was a very busy guy. Number four, in 2007, Chavez, reinvigorated with power and an authoritarian regime, decides to nationalize Venezuelan oil. Ruh-roh. That meant that Venezuela took all of Exxon's money, all their oil, and all their access to oil, and shifted the lion's share of profits back to Venezuela and left Exxon, well, not a lot of money. P.S. Exxon then sued and won $1.4 billion in a claim, But what kind of international police force are we going to get for Venezuela to be forced to pay Exxon? None. After that huge shift of economic power, Venezuelan oil dropped from 3 million barrels a day way down to 700,000 barrels a day due to corruption and, let's be honest, informal sanctions put on them by the United States because they just stole a bunch of their money from corporations. Stole might be a US word, considering the oil was on Venezuelan land and considered a Venezuelan resource, but who's counting? The US really does imperialism out of 10, don't they? Ooh, new chalk. Number 5, a guy named Maduro, used to be the VP of Chavez, takes over and he starts building an even stronger authoritarian government. I forgot the year. 2013. Obama calls the drug cartel and this particular regime a threat to democracy and national security of the United States. That's then followed by Trump putting on economic sanctions in 2017. Are you with me so far? This is about to get interesting. By interesting, I mean even more corrupt. 6, 2025. I brought you right up to the present. Maria Machado, remember I told you to remember that name, wins the Nobel Peace Prize. And who does she dedicate it to? None other than Donald Trump. And it's at this point that Donald Trump begins attacking boats, Venezuelan boats, calling them drug cartels, talking about revitalizing and restoring democracy to Venezuela, and talking about how they're a threat to national security. And guess what? The US got to go in and save some people. Oh, and P.S. Donald Trump wants his oil back. It's the ending that's really going to get you. The big question about why Donald Trump is doing this is why, and I think the answer is going to surprise you a little bit. Number 1, he is going to claim that he is going to liberate Venezuela. Guys, always be careful when the United States of America liberates anything, because usually it means they're going to take it. And he's going to install Maria as the president, formally excommunicated from all political life, but she's going to serve a purpose. Number 2, Machado will then give oil rights back to, you guessed it, Exxon. 80% goes to them, 20% back to Venezuela. Everybody's happy and a new power is installed, but that's not the only reason this is happening. This last one's going to blow you away. Number 3. Is it about oil? Absolutely. They want control of the world's biggest oil supply, but that's not the full answer. What the real answer is U.S. currency rates. Follow along, this gets tricky. Oil has always been traded in U.S. dollars, called petrol. And what that has served the United States in doing is solidifying, is stabilizing, is increasing U.S. dollars. Because if anybody wants to buy oil anywhere in the world, they have to use U.S. currency. It artificially inflates the price of the U.S. dollar and stabilizes the U.S. economy. This is the real problem. Because what Trump and the United States is really afraid of are BRICS nations. What are they? They are nations, they are countries that have gotten together and are starting to trade without the United States, especially oil, and not use the US currency as their trading denomination. And that is going to possibly submarine the US economy. So is it about oil? Sure, but what really it's about is about the United States being able to control the entire market of trade when it comes to oil, thus inflating and propping up the US economy. So when somebody says, is it about the oil? Say, sure, but that's just a vehicle for them to control everything else.
Propaganda from the left, anyway, it's cute. Some facts in there, and there's a lot of slanted. It's basically anti-American. But anyhow, Exxon, Standard Oil was hooked up with Indonesia, which was just prior to this believed to have had the world's largest oil reserve. You got Anglo Persian Oil Company, which is BP. Most recently, Obama pardoned 23 executives who were deemed responsible for that Gulf oil rig blowout that caused so many billions of dollars of damages down there in the Gulf. So it's not unusual. You have Halliburton trying to get a hold of Iraqi oil exploitation rights. I mean, it's big money, and you need to be careful who you get in. Are you getting in people who are trying to make the money, or already have the money, or have another interest besides the money? It's the way the world works. It's still basically who kicks whose ass.
Exactly, and we got to make sure that we're the ones kicking the ass. So I want to play. This is more of a docu clip here. The real reason the U.S. invaded Venezuela goes back to the deal Henry Kissinger made with Saudi Arabia in 1974.
Yeah, that's about when OPEC was coming up with the idea of let's have an oil strike. That's when they had that big oil prices in 1974, and the gas jumped. I remember one week was 37 and 9/10 for 103 octane gas, and then it jumped up to $1.06 inside of a month. That was shocking.
Let me play this here.
The petrodollar is actually a device invented by Kissinger and Nixon.
U.S. President Richard Nixon sent his Secretary of State and National Security Advisor Henry Kissinger to Saudi Arabia for a secret meeting.
That meeting took place on a battleship called the USS Quincy, and very few records were kept of that meeting. But Roosevelt promised the King of
There never was a battleship known as the USS Quincy. All American battleships are named after states, except one, and that was way back in 1904.
Saudi Arabia weapons and protection in exchange for the United States to have the exclusive right to develop oil from Saudi Arabia using dollars. Meaning, if countries wanted to trade the most important commodity of all, oil, they needed to get their hands on dollars. And from that point on, oil would be priced in USD. And if a country tried to get their hands on oil without using dollars, that country historically needed more freedom in their lives.
What was that about?
More left-wing propaganda.
And
see, you have a choice. Do you want the Russians to run it? Do you want the Chinese to run it? Or do you want the United States to run it? One of those three is going to run it. So is it a standoff, or is somebody nudging it saying, like, okay, you can stand over there, but I'm the big dog in the room. Now, that's your choice. Russia, China, or the U.S.? Which one do you want to run the big show?
So let's briefly switch to
Now,
Iran.
admittedly, we do have a proclivity for assholes like Joe in the Hole or Obama Boy or George W. with his formerly tobacco chewing self. So anyway.
So I want to go to Iran. Iran it has a lot of protests that's going on now, right? I think the CIA, I think Israel and the Mossad got something to do with it. However, Iranians fight brutality in the streets, and the media shrugs. Footage shows Iranian citizens clashing with regime forces in raw, defiant street battles, shouting for freedom, facing tear gas, beatings, and bullets, and yet the mainstream media allegedly has nothing to report. They really are not reporting on this as much, right? So this is going on right now in Iran.
Anytime you get religious or theological fanatics running anything, you have a mess.
Yeah. Well, here is Netanyahu saying Iran's regime might fall soon. We won't let Iran build its missiles program.
ההתקוממות העממית, לא רק בטהרן, כבר במקומות אחרים, היא רק התחילה. ובינתיים היא התרחבה מאוד. אנחנו בישראל...
I don't feel like listening to him in his language. So it says, it is very possible that we are standing at a decisive moment, a moment in which the Iranian people would take their fate into their own hands. We will not allow Iran to build the ballistic missiles industry or renew the nuclear program. We are determined to protect our country and ensure the future of our people. We are closely following all developments and are prepared for any scenario. Iran must understand that its aggression comes with a heavy price. I think they are the ones causing these protests and riots amongst maybe young people or the men. I think it was, what do you call it? When someone like if our CIA or our government go in and plant up unrest. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. You're talking about somebody coming in and setting up an insurgency and having a revolution.
Right. So they're really causing Israel, I think, is causing the insurrection. What's going on in Iran? I don't because I don't, what
Causing unrest, social disorder, and political disintegration.
yeah. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you
That's
think
what governments do. That's a way of getting around having to shoot it out.
we in about, and honestly, I do not support US going into Iran trying to topple down their president. Like, come on. One thing to be over here dealing with the Monroe Doctrine. There's another thing taking your ass over to Iran and
They have a big pool of folk who don't mind blowing themselves up to get you.
true. And I honestly,
That's dangerous.
I'm tired of Israel. I'm damn sure tired of this devil here, Netanyahu. I'm
If you want to find out what's behind this, get a hold of the autobiography of Menachem Begin, who held his position way back when. In 1976, Menachem Begin and Anwar Sadat, who was the president of Egypt, collaborated with the assistance of President Jimmy Carter, and they signed a treaty. But if you look at it, you'll find that Menachem Begin apologized to Sadat for what he had done and what he stipulated he had done in his autobiography. He had been a commando, a captain in the British Army, and he had led commando raids into Nazi Germany. And he talked about the number of people that he had assassinated who were Arabic or Islamic. He talked about the hospitals, mosques, and schools that he had blown up or burned up, and all the people that he was proud to have slain in the name of Israel. And, there is this thing, what goes around comes around. You might also want to carefully read Exodus and see what is contained in that and what is this,
right.
It's bad. You have to be careful about the precedents that you set, because sometimes the precedents exist for several thousand years.
Right. I want to share this clip here.
Capture of Nicolas Maduro, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, posted to social media that the, quote, crime network in Venezuela has more to do with the Middle East than many of us may realize. Here with us now to talk about that is the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee. Sir, always good to see you. Welcome back. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, Anna. Thank you for having me.
Always, anytime. Ambassador, explain how what happened in Venezuela is connected to the Middle East, because I don't think many people realize the correlation here.
Yeah, most people don't understand that Hezbollah, which is a proxy of Iran, has their tentacles in at least 12 different nations in South America alone. Perhaps their biggest presence is Venezuela. It is a serious base for Hezbollah. That's a terror force that's killed more Americans than any of the other Iranian proxies, especially the 242 Marines that they murdered in 1982. So this is a constant problem, not just in the Middle East, but across the globe. So taking Maduro down, getting rid of that communist government, a dictatorship, a ruthless dictatorship, and a narco-terrorist certainly helps people in the United States from the poison of drugs. It helps people all over the world from the poison of Hezbollah and other Iranian proxies.
I want to play for you and our viewers what President Trump said yesterday about helping Venezuela. Here's what he said.
We're going to be running it. We're going to be bringing it back. It's a dead, I talk about a dead country. Venezuela has a lot of bad people in there, a lot of bad people that shouldn't be leading. We're not going to take a chance that one of those people take over for Maduro.
So the question remains, what is the plan for Venezuelan people specifically, sir?
Well, I think, as you know, Marco Rubio has been given several assignments already in the Trump administration. We understand he may be going down there to run the place. He'll also be picking up a couple of night shifts as the Domino's manager in Manhattan and taking on an Uber route just to round everything out. The truth is, I don't think we know exactly how things are going to be administered, but I'm sure that Secretary Rubio will be involved in some way, not necessarily in day-to-day management. Look, the good news is you could take a third grader from a failing classroom in southern Illinois, put him in charge of Venezuela, and that kid would be doing better than Maduro did. He has destroyed the country. It used to be wealthy. It used to have a rich not only economic foundation, but it was very culturally alive. Under his dictatorship and his stolen election, it's really gone completely to the toilet. So really, President Trump and our U.S. military has done the world a great favor. Most of all, done the people of Venezuela a great favor. It's amazing to me that you have people in the U.S. who are somehow critical of what President Trump did. They're joining up with China, Russia, Hamas, Iran, and some of the worst actors on earth, all of whom have condemned the action. That's not a crowd I'd want to be part of.
Ambassador, in the past, you've said democracy wouldn't work in Iraq. Do you think it will work in Venezuela?
You know, I'm not sure that it'll work like we see it, but anything will be better than the kind of totalitarian, brutal regime. So I'm not going to try to predict what sort of government will be put in place. That'll ultimately be up to the Venezuelan people. But they've had better governments. For most of their existence, they've had better governments. And it's only under the last two dictators that things have really gone sideways.
Israel's opposition leader did post on social media. This is what he wrote, quote, "The regime in Iran should pay close attention to what is happening in Venezuela." Your thoughts on that, sir?
Anna, there's an old saying down south that says there's no education in the second kick of a mule. Iran might ought to pay attention to what happened to them this summer in the Midnight Hammer and recognize that President Trump has the ability through our extraordinary military to reach out and touch someone from anywhere on the earth and do it in such a surgical way. We're not talking about a long-term war. We're talking about an operation that is able to disable and dismantle serious, nefarious governments. Iran ought to take note. They didn't the first time. I hope they don't have to have the second kick of the mule.
Thank you for watching. See, that's where we need to be careful. That's simplistic bullshit right there. You don't just do it by a clean surgical strike. It doesn't do anything except get people perhaps chastised, but angry and pissed off. Hezbollah has been led across our border, and now they're inside the United States preparing to do mischief. So we have to take that in court because Joe and his home, he was in charge of the southern border. She let that happen. That was her delegated responsibility, and she didn't take care of it. So now we have very angry enemies of the United States inside our borders. Nobody knows where they are. So thank you very much, Biden and Harris, or shall I say Biden and Imhoff. Now,
And that's
that's It's bad. It's a real live mess. But see, he's talking, I call that nonsense too. You can pull off a surgical strike. Some of the stuff they've got right now could probably, if you gave his address and office in the building, you could take him out from a few thousand miles away, but that's not going to solve anything because the cemeteries of the world are filled with indispensable people who got replaced. Now,
and this
you're
is what
going
I'm
to have to
saying.
do
Like,
something besides that. And I don't think we're going to go over there and send in the Marines or a few Army divisions to go have it
no,
out
and we
there.
should not. And that's what I'm saying. Israel, I'm tired of us backing Israel. Netanyahu, sit your ass down. Where because it would be Netanyahu trying to twist Trump arm to send in some special agent CIA or special forces into Iran to, try and take down their regime. And for what? Like, no, that's too much of a stretch. And I'm not
Right.
because I'm looking at it. Listen, everything that this administration is doing, they're gonna need to elect like a JD Vance to continue it, so that whatever he's doing in this administration will carry on to the next and not be reversed.
See, the idiots in the Democratic Party haven't been paying attention to this stuff in a long time. That's why it's so screwed up. They've got this crazy ideology that they're trying to push and make the official theology of the United States. The rainbow cult thing. I mean, you want to do that, fine, but it doesn't need to be made and is forbidden when it comes to that
Right.
as an official cult of the United States. But you see, the problem is that you have a real live mess. You're not going to be able to send in troops to go deal with this. And there is a thing about Israel, it does serve a utility to the U.S. There are three factors: Egypt, Israel, and Saudi Arabia are essentially the U.S. proxies in that area. We depend on them to keep the flashpoint down. A lot of stuff is done behind the scenes. Israel, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia provide our fundamental intelligence as to what's going on over there. Israel gets backed up to a great extent unofficially by Saudi Arabia and Egypt. We have a massive set of military bases in Egypt. We have our military personnel on furlough flying aircraft for Israel. We have the ability to stage out of Saudi Arabia like we did in both Gulf Wars. And we have a massive amount of exchange when it comes to energy between Saudi Arabia and the United States, and also when it comes to testing military hardware and keeping a good profile and cadre together who can fight a conventional peer group war.
Mhm.
So they have their utilities, but you should not let the tail wag the dog.
Exactly.
And somebody needs to pay more attention to the fundamental interests of the United States of America. What's going on, breaking it down, is think of the United States as a modern day Rome. All roads lead to Rome. Now, if Rome had 1,000 mile wide moat around the main center way back when, modern history would be different, but it didn't. But this Rome, the United States, has the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean. And as long as we keep this hemisphere together, courtesy of the Monroe Doctrine, nobody can touch us unless you want to let it all hang out and go hammer each other back into the Stone Age with some intercontinental ballistic missiles, sub-launched missiles, and some other things that are out there that nobody wants to deal with.
Right. One more thing.
Alert.
Yes, honey. This is breaking news.
What?
Major breaking political news out
Oh,
of St. Paul, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Tim Walz will not seek re-election as governor, and what a fall from grace this has been for him. You might recall in the spring of 2023, he pushed through several progressive ideas to the state legislature that caught the attention of Barack Obama, who went to Twitter to give his endorsement for the programs, which eventually caught the attention of people like Kamala Harris, who chose him to be her running mate as the vice president. Introduced in Chicago at the convention in August of last year, a debate that was an absolute disaster with J.D. Vance at one point called himself a knucklehead. But after reportedly billions of dollars have been stolen from taxpayers, by way of the state of Minnesota, Tim Walz says he will not seek a third term. What a remarkable 2 years in the national spotlight has been for him, Dana.
They caught him, and he doesn't want his thievery, allegedly, his alleged thievery to come to light. That's what that means. It's like those Somalis that got caught. What have I been saying? There's usually a Democrat elected official or a bunch of them and appointed officials who are getting some under the table. That's what you're getting here. Allegedly. That's what it sounds like.
And Nick Shirley, kicked off that whole investigation in Somalia, the young Mormon out of Utah, he said, I ended Tim Walz. He surely did.
Look, you had the Joe and the Ho, and they was gonna waltz off into the sunset and take everything over, but it didn't work because Marshall Trump came along and held him down at high noon. Yes, he did.
He goes on to say, well, this is Tim Walz, his ex account. Minnesota has to come first, always. Today, I'm proud of the work we've done to make Minnesota the best place to live and raise kids. I've decided to step out of the race and let others worry about the election while I focus on the work. Bullshit.
Careful, that may be why they jacked me up on X for talking about him. Waltz and Matilda.
Right. And it's just like, so he goes on, Happy New Year, Minnesota. Like many Minnesotans, I was glad to turn a page on 2025. It was an extraordinary, difficult year for our state, and it ended on a particular sour note. For the last several
Yeah,
years,
your crooked ass got caught. That's what happened. Yeah, the other thing is you didn't take care of your primary business, which was governing the state instead of pushing in an agenda. And you had all of these billions of dollars worth of your tax-paying citizens' money ripped off. And we know you got some under the table, didn't you?
for the last several years,
Yeah.
an organized group of criminals have sought to take advantage of our state's generosity. And even as we make progress in the fight against the fraudsters, we now see an organized group of political actors seeking to take advantage of the crisis. I won't mince words here. Donald Trump and his allies in Washington and St. Paul and online want to make our state a colder, meaner place. They want to poison our people against each other by attacking our neighbors. And ultimately, they want to take away much of what makes Minnesota the best place in America to raise a family. They're already begun by taking our tax dollars that were meant to help families afford childcare. And they have no intention.
Yeah, the illegals. Families of four, illegal families of four get $5,000 a while to go live off of our tax dollars, and they don't even belong here. Really nice. I don't have any problems with anybody's ethnicity. You just go through the process of getting here right.
Make no mistake, we should be concerned about fraud in our state government. We cannot effectively deliver programs and services if we can't earn the public's trust. That's why over the past few years, We've made system changes to the way we do business. We've gone to the legislature time and time again to get more tools to combat fraud. We fired people who weren't doing their jobs. We've seen people go to jail for stealing from our state. We've cut off whole streams of funding in partnership with federal government where we saw widespread criminal activity. We've put new locks on the doors of our remaining programs, and we've hired a new head of program integrity to make sure those locks can't be broken.
You know what? That sounds like another person who didn't just aspire to be a vice president. He became one. Spiro Agnew gave a set of remarks much like that when he resigned as vice president before he went and did time in a federal penitentiary and in a state penitentiary where he was formerly the governor.
Well, I'm not reading all these 4 pages, but he says, I reflected on this moment with my family and my team over the holidays. I came to the conclusion that I can't give a political campaign my way. Every minute I spend defending my own political interests will be a minute I can't spend defending the people of Minnesota against the criminals who prey on our generosity. Blah, blah, blah. You met with your lawyer, and your lawyer said they got something on you.
Well, they worked out a deal.
Right.
That's what it sounds like. They worked out a deal.
Let's make it.
That's like our chief of police here in Memphis. She was under investigation in Atlanta and they fired her. Then once she got demoted, she was under civil service, so they had to hire her back. And then she quit. And then she went to Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. She was under investigation there. And then Memphis hired her. You know, crooks like to hang with each other. And the general incompetence that we have exhibited by our chief of police and others, our city mayor and county mayor, have made Memphis the most dangerous place in America and the 10th most dangerous city in the whole world. That's what happens when you get fools pushing ideology and under the table. Well, just for them, the governance of the people goes to hell.
Right. And so, this is a picture of more DHS agents in Minnesota, looking for illegals. But they still have fraud going on. I want to play this clip.
Yeah.
Adult daycare.
People who 220 is finished. Them. Okay. Why you take it?
I'm sorry?
Why you take it picture? What?
So it seems like they're up and operating today.
Huh? 230 client all right now is gone.
That's good.
Only me 3. Still I'm waiting. Driver.
Oh, for the driver?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes, I'm waiting driver.
What kind of things do you guys do with the seniors?
Yeah.
Because I have grandparents as well, and I want to know how I can keep them happy and occupied.
Yes, everything.
Yeah. So what kind of...
In the morning, breakfast, fruits, everything I'm eating.
Really?
All people.
Uh-huh.
Second is lunch.
Wow.
Everybody lunch. If you want it, you take it home.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what kind of games do you guys play? Or
a lot of games.
Really?
Is their game. Just a lot of them.
Yeah.
But I don't speak good English.
Oh, and so your clients probably speak Somalian.
What? Oh, hold on.
Yeah. It doesn't really seem like anybody in there speaks English. She was not happy at me for recording, but now she seems happy that she got to clarify that they give them breakfast and lunch. They are feeding the past. Just kidding. I believe that as long as we're still on this earth, it is for a reason, no matter how old or young you are. And by the way, that's a lot easier asking where's the seniors than it is asking where's the kids. No seniors in here. I'm really good at... Can I sing for the seniors? Can I perform for them? I want to offer them $40 to tour their center. Maybe if I just put the money in the door.
Oh, stop. That's cruel.
I think that's how they operate. So this person, I don't know if you guys can see. You can see that this person is hiding behind the door, just sticking a phone out. I haven't said that they've done anything wrong. I'm just here asking what they do with seniors. So we're within their office hours and their operating hours, not saying anything, but not allowed in, and there's no seniors here. It's also really convenient that they can just put on full face coverings to hide their identity at any moment. But what's wrong with recording? I can record without permission. Yes, I can. That's illegal. This is not your house. It's not your place at all. Wait, but why would you say this is not my house? This is not a house. Do you have a permission to recording? I can't hear you through your face covering. Another Somalian has told me that it is illegal to record. Fascinating. She wants my picture. Would you like a close-up? Are you sure you don't want a close-up?
So they just ran lights and sirens over because Somali called the police on.
All right. So
If you want to see the interesting other side backstory, watch Black Hawk Down.
yeah, because my thing is, listen, I honestly, we all know what's going on in Minnesota. Minnesota has been exposed. I want to focus on Ohio. So going forward,
While seeing Minnesota.
yeah, going forward, I will be doing more content on Ohio fraud with the
Now, to give you an interesting thing, take a look at the people you're looking at, and then watch Black Hawk Down and see what the other Somalis look like.
And listen, ever since Nick Shirley muted, sorry. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Ever since Nick Shirley did his expose and exposing Minnesota, right? Now you have all these other content digital content creators. They're not even real journalists knocking on these people's businesses, which is kind of trollish. That is kind of trollish. But is it breaking the law? Can she do what she's doing as far as filming the way she's filming, or is that breaking?
Yeah, she's not breaking the law.
No, okay. But I think that's a little bit annoying and unprofessional, or
Oh yeah, it's probably annoying. I mean, and if you're going to market it, then you probably need to get a release. But taking the thing per se, it's a news event. Remember New York Times versus Sullivan, U.S. Supreme Court, 1962. Somebody's being a public figure, and they're certainly, apparently, operating something that's receiving public funds. So yeah, it's a business.
Oh my God, I forgot this. This is quick. The Pentagon initiates proceedings to demote U.S. Senator Mark Kelly, a retired captain, over video telling soldiers to refuse orders. They're going to demote him, and where it was another. Oh my God, it was another thing.
What branch was he in?
Well, let me read it here. He was. What does it say? 6 weeks ago, this is Secretary Pete Hegseth. 6 weeks ago, Senator Mark Kelly and 5 other members of Congress released a reckless, insidious video that was clearly intended to undermine good order and military discipline. As a retired Navy captain who is still receiving a military
And he's lucky they don't give him a dishonorable discharge. When you fill out federal forms, have you ever been dishonorably discharged from, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, so he's saying here that Captain Kelly, now he is still accountable to military justice and the Department of War and the American people. Therefore, in response to Senator Mark Kelly's seditious statements and his pattern of reckless misconduct, the Department of War is taking administrative action against Captain Mark E. Kelly. The department has initiated retirement grade determination proceedings under 10 USC 1370 with the reduction in his retired grade, resulting in a corresponding reduction in retired pay.
Lieutenant Commander?
Well, he's a captain, so
they reduced him to Lieutenant Commander. Captain in the Navy is comparable to a colonel in the Army or Air Force.
To ensure this action, the Secretary of War has also issued a formal letter of censure, which outlines the totality of Captain, for now, Kelly's reckless misconduct. This censure is a necessary process step and will be placed in Captain Kelly official and permanent military personnel file. Captain Kelly has been provided notice of the basis of this action and has 30 days to submit a response. The retirement grade determination process directed by Secretary Hexes will be completed within 45 days. Captain Kelly's status as a sitting United States Senator does not exempt him from accountability, and further violations could result in further action.
They need to court martial him.
These actions are based on Captain Kelly's public statements from June through December 2025, in which he characterized lawful military operations as illegal and counseled members of armed forces to refuse lawful orders. This conduct
That's insubordination, and it also is fomenting a mutiny.
This conduct was seditious in nature and violated Article 133 and 134 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, to which Captain Kelly remains subject as a retired officer receiving pay. So they're going after his pension. What the hell happened? What happened to the judge? I'm reading. You gotta wait for him to come back, honey. Yeah, he's not going to get his full pension now. Judge, we cannot see you or hear you. Guys, did you hit that like button? Did you share this video? Yes. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Ooh, and I am creating a Patreon so you guys can have Judge Joe Brown uncensored. I'll be dropping that next week, Monday, during the show. Formal announcement. Where is the judge? What is going on? Let me call him and see. He went hi, life with Hey G. How you doing?
Hello there. I'm trying to get back on.
All right. All right, he's trying to get back on. Oh, here he goes. What? Wait a minute. Hello? I can't
Hang up. Hang up.
I did hang up.
Well, I can't hang up on this end.
All right, I'm about to hang you up now.
Okay.
Wait a minute. My dog is like having a toddler. Honey, I gotta cover up these grays. Get my hair done on Wednesday. Did you guys enjoy the show? Oh, here he goes. I see him.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you and see you. So what were you saying?
Okay. See, he basically is trying to promote a mutiny. In other words, that's what happened when troops are mutinous, they don't follow orders. So a captain is the equivalent of a full colonel in the other armed services. A captain would have been the commanding officer of a battleship, an aircraft carrier, a large cruiser, maybe a lead Arleigh Burke destroyer. It's pretty far up in the rank system. So he's still getting pay, and he's still held to the rules of military justice. And frankly, I'm surprised they haven't arranged to convene a court martial, a martial court. So courts martial have been convened for much less much less serious infractions that are much less serious over the years.
They're going after his pay.
Well, yeah, that's what he retires off of. Now,
Is that
He
good?
is a U.S. senator, but he still holds this rank. So
But when they go after your pension, do you think pension should be off limits for
right.
across the
It's
board?
got see part of what they do in this system goes both ways. Somebody may be told, hey, look, we have you working way above grade. So if you do this when you retire in 18 months, we'll ramp you up another grade. So for the rest of your life, you will be getting money at a higher grade. When you have been made a 4-star general, which is as high as you can get in the U.S. military, or a 4-star admiral now, full admiral, or a full general, you only hold that as a temporary rank, but you are forever subject to recall at that status. Your permanent grade will be as lieutenant general, which is 1, 2, 3 stars, or a vice admiral, which is 1, 2, 3 stars. But once you get that, you're subject to recall at any time.
Mm, okay. That's it.
Okay.
Honey, I like
Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda.
What is that?
That's a song the Aussies have. Waltzing Matilda, you come along, sing Matilda with me.
So I like you in the afternoons because you're more refreshed. You still have your night to go out, right? I don't have to worry about are you going to be home on time or none of that. So you still have time, honey, to go out to
When am I
dinner.
going out? It's time to eat. I haven't
And
eaten anything all bloody day.
real quick though, before we get up out of here, you said that hat was custom made.
It says right here, custom made for Judge Joe Brown.
Now, can you put that in your will for me to have?
It's probably too big for your
I
head.
don't want it. I don't care. It's vintage. It's a momentum. It's memorabilia. I know I
I'm
said
gonna
that
be
word.
buried in it.
No. Can I? No, for real.
Gonna be buried in it.
I thought you wanted to be cremated.
Well, before they put you in the fire.
So can I have it?
Now, if I think about it,
Just say yes or no. Can I have it when you die?
I have to get probably no
No, see,
big
because
deal.
you know why you won't say yes because we are recording on yes. So this is proof that you said yes. So I could contest anyone that try to claim that hat when you do kick the bucket. So just say yes.
I'll take
So I
care of
can have my
it.
legal
Don't worry
proof.
about it. Don't worry about it.
Say yes. I say yes? You can have the hat when I die.
If
Matter of fact,
somebody doesn't fight you over it,
no, I don't. I don't want to do it. No, no. I want all the hats.
well, I think one of my sons wears the same size. He kind
They
of
don't
has it.
want the hat. They're not into cowboy
No,
hats.
he actually does like the hat.
Well, he can have one, and I want the rest. I want the
That's a
chinchilla.
whole
I want
bunch
the
of hats.
chinchilla. I want the chinchilla one, even though that's rodent. And then I want that one, the handmade one.
You're talking about the diamante, el diamante.
Talia wants the hat too. Can Talia wants the hat.
I have a diamante, a
Yeah,
presidente,
but you know,
several patron, el
chinchilla
patron.
is that animal is actually a rodent.
What?
Chinchilla.
Yeah.
So why would I want to wear a
Sure.
rodent?
Yeah. Um,
That's like wearing rat fur.
yeah, but it's nutria was the source of the felt for most of the cowboy hats that were at the top of the heap. A nutria is a rodent from South America.
All right. Say goodbye.
And by the way, this one is beaver.
Is beaver a rodent? No, beavers
No,
are not
a
rodents.
beaver is not a rodent.
So I want that one.
A beaver is close to a rodent. He's got the buck teeth in the front and gnaws on everything. So I guess he's
And
a
I
super
have the
rodent.
damn hat.
I'll give it to you. Don't worry about it.
What you mean? You ain't gonna be here to say yes. Just say yes now.
I'll put it in writing.
You could verbally say it because this is my proof too.
That doesn't work either.
God.
Now,
Say
I
goodnight.
ain't dead yet. I might wear it out or lose it.
I know you're not dead yet.
Whoa, it makes me feel weird. Oh, I need to commit to what's happening when I'm dead.
Say goodnight.
Good night.